Okay.
Go.
Thanks everybody for being here on this, our final night of Archives Months for our event series. If you haven't checked it out yet, our exhibit, Lights, Camera, ROLLA, is still up on display for 2 more days at the Curtis Laws Wilson Library up on the 2nd floor. So please do take a moment to check that out. But tonight, again, our final speaker for this event is going to be archivist Debra Griffith with the Missouri S&T Archives. She's going to be telling us the fascinating story of an MSM alum, Gerald Rackett, giving a little bit of history of him, and then afterwards we're going to be showing one of the films that was made possible because of his work. So again, thank you all for coming to this event. For those of you that came to some of our other events as well, we just really appreciate you guys always showing up for those. So I will hand it over to Debbie.
Good evening, everyone. This evening we are going to be only live streaming my talk because streaming the actual movie would get us into a whole lot of copyright trouble, and we don't want to do that to the Rolla Public Library. My name, as Katie said, is Debra Griffith, and I am the archivist for Missouri S&T. In cooperation with SHSMO, Rolla Research Center, and the Rolla Public Library. Hello, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you for being here.
I'm going to give a short talk on Gerald Rackett this evening before we start The Wizard of
All the
Oz.
lights up, right? Still, let me know if you want me to adjust lights. Not that I can do anything much, but turn them half off. Okay.
I was planning on making this a full 15-minute talk, but even if I stretch it out with Katie's assistance, 8 minutes is about it. Gerald Rackett was born in Chicago and came to MSM as a freshman in 1916. He came from a theatrical family, yet decided to major in mining engineering. Went too far. He made a bold claim upon his arrival in Rolla from the train, which led to a dunking in what we now call Schumann Park, but back then it was Frisco Pond. He was the big Rackett from Chicago, and looking at him, you kind of get the feeling that maybe he's got some attitude.
Deserved the dunking.
Huh?
He deserved the dunking.
Yeah, probably. But while he was a student here, he was very active and very popular. He worked as an assistant in the Department of Geology and Mineralogy. He was a member of the Grubstakers Eating Club, and like many other eating clubs on campus, it eventually became a fraternity. So now it's the Triangle Fraternity. He was a member of the Satyrs, and that was sort of the dramatic society on campus, and he produced or directed at least 3 plays on campus. He was the junior class president. He was on the Missouri Minor newspaper staff. He was a student council president, so you know, he got around. After he graduated, he first went to work in the oil fields of Oklahoma briefly, and then moved on to Los Angeles, where he worked for the Los Angeles Sanitation and Sewer District as a researcher of petroleum products. It's unknown how he got into the movie business, but he made an entire career of it after this point. He started at Technicolor in the 20s, and then he started as a technician and worked his way up to technical vice president. Then he switched to Columbia Pictures, and from there he was a technical vice president for them as well, and he stayed with them into TV. But through the years, he kind of switched back and forth, working for Columbia and Technicolor during doing different research projects. While he was at Technicolor, the movie industry created a technician and producer group in 1929 to work on some of the technical problems of filming sound pictures. This group eventually became AMPUS, which still exists. The group was tasked with providing central and responsible direction of the handling of specific problems that would benefit from cooperative research, investigation, and experimentation. As an aside, both Gerald Rackett and our much more recent graduate, Steve Sullivan, won Oscars for their technical work, and they're both members of AMPUS. Rackett in 1939 for bringing three-color feature production to the big screen, and Sullivan for technical achievement in 2002, 2007, and 2010. And the display that we have up in the campus library, there is a section on Steve Sullivan as well in his work. So the first three things that they were asked to do in this joint committee was testing and classification of the best materials for sound picture sets, things that would help absorb the sound from everything else going on in the room, finding a way to silence the camera, which made a lot of noise, and investigating a silent arc light or just a way to dim the sound of the arc lights. This is unfortunately the only picture we have of him in his time in Hollywood. He was integral to so many things, and there is just so little information. He's in the back row, the center guy, with the tie and the pocket square. He was married 3 times. I can find wedding records, I can find divorce records, I can find his first wife's obituary, his second wife's remarriage. I cannot find his obituary, though he died in Sherman Oaks. It should be in the Los Angeles Times. No such luck. While he was at Columbia Pictures, he did 2 major things. First, he helped develop a film stock that made the moodiness of film noir possible, and that would be the super sensitized film developed at Columbia. He was actually working with the people at Kodak, and later on, there was a lawsuit between Technicolor and Rackett and Kodak trying to get everybody to release the ability to use these products more widely in the film industry. The second thing he did was he developed a 3D camera system in 1950, late 52, early 53. This would be the first time that 3D was really big in the film industry, and it was the so-called golden age. The movie that they made, Man in the Dark, was the first one that they made using his system, and it was completed in 11 days, and it became the second color 3D film, beat out only by a couple of days by United Artists' Wanna Devil. Though a lot of places don't consider that to be the first official one, because at that point United Artists wasn't as huge a place as Columbia. In addition, as the head of the Columbia Development Lab, Ray Harryhausen consulted with him on 1958's The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad to work out a way to produce a much less contrasted foreground and rear view for that particular film. And you can find the information on that in an Italian film magazine that's written in French. Google got a good workout. But what else did he do? He did classified military work. He and the folks listed here, his boss, Herbert Kalmus, John Clark Jr., Eric House, and Frank Taylor worked on a project to create an anti-oscillation mount for binoculars that were used by military observers on planes and lookouts on ships. And this is for World War II. The team was actually able to remove 90% of the oscillation, and you can find the entire patent available online. The patent office is very good about that. The project was declassified in 1957, except for all these things that got marked out. He had 28 patents at the time of his death, and many of those are still being referred to in modern equipment. So the things that he had been doing is having a really lasting effect. One of the biggest things he did, and the reason that we can say that ROLLA is directly connected to The Wizard of Oz, was this particular filming system. It was used to create this piece of equipment, and this is from the Smithsonian. That first group that he belonged to that was trying to work out a way to create a way that you wouldn't be hearing the cameras all the time, that resulted in the huge blue square called the blimp. And the camera is the much smaller blue square inside of there. The blimp itself is packed with asbestos to do more sound deadening. This particular camera is in the Smithsonian collection. It utilized the 3-strip film process devised by Rackett and his colleague Ball. The camera recorded on 3 separate negatives, red, blue, and green, that were then combined to get a full color positive print. Prior to this, it was red and green, and the colors were not nearly as vivid as you would want. This was a significant improvement in color filming. It was first used in the film Becky Sharp, but more famously made The Wizard of Oz possible. The Smithsonian holds 3 of these cameras, and all 3 were used in The Wizard of Oz. And now, on with the show! How do I turn off?
Okay, so I think we just switched the cord, yeah?
Yes, very good.
Any questions?
I do have one question.
Sure.
Is the exhibit, like, would we be able to see it after showing tonight? Is it open as long as the library's open?
As long as the library's
Okay.
open, yep,
Okay.
yep. And so it's open on Saturday, Sunday. The library itself is actually open. It's open to the general public until 8. After 8, you have to have a student ID to get the doors open.
Oh, okay.
So depending on how late this goes, you might miss out. But it's a wonderful display. Katie had done a talk at the beginning of October about the rotoscope
Yeah, I
filming.
listened to that online.
Yeah, well, the mount is there.
Oh,
And
cool.
there are pictographs that will lead you around to actually look through it and see what the piece of film would look like. How it takes an image and splits it into 3 chunks on a single square of film. So that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, if we duck out a little early, it's because we're gonna
We're
get
gonna go
over
see
there.
the
Okay. Well, you have until the end of the 31st.
Well, we came down from Jeff City, so.
Oh, well, welcome. Okay, so,
All right, you want me to start the movie?
okay.